Starting with the head, the mannequin comes completely assembled as you see here. The head on the airway trainer is considered Airway Larry. It's an advanced airway management training head. It features a manual, palpable, carotid pulse by squeezing the manual squeeze bulb. It also features laryngospasm and tongue edema. By simply using one of the supplied syringes and attaching it either to the yellow or red tubing, yellow for tongue edema, red for laryngospasm, and depressing a small amount of air will allow the tongue to swell or the laryngospasm to close. By simply twisting the stopcock, it will hold and maintain the air inside the trainer. Opening the stopcock and pulling back on the plunger will allow the air to escape from the simulator. Prior to performing any intubation practice, it is important to use the supplied Nasco lubricant to fully lubricate the airway as well as any intubation appliance before using the Airway Larry management head. Unzipping the supplied long sleeve track jacket exposes the defibrillation chest skin. This chest skin is adhered to the torso of the mannequin via hook and loop closure. Simply pulling that off at the sides and by the neck will expose the underbody of the mannequin. When removing the chest skin, it's always important to be cautious of the attached electronics. Directly under the defibrillation chest skin is the chest plate with anatomical landmarks. Simply remove that. The lung bags are loosely set on top of the upper compression plate. Removing the upper compression plate and setting it aside exposes the inside of the mannequin. There are several electronics cords as well as 2 sets of compression springs inside the body of the mannequin. Black for adult compressions, or red for child compressions. Simply slide the compression springs into the tubes fixed in the lower compression plate. Once the springs are set completely in the lower compression plate, remove any additional packaging from the electronics pieces and either slide them out through the holes in the torso or just set them out through the top. There's electronics cords for the printing and memory unit or light box, as well as the ECG simulator cords are all bound on the inside of the mannequin. When the springs are set in the lower compression plate, replace the upper compression plate, being very cautious that none of the electronics inside the mannequin have detached, and put the upper compression plate over the top of the compression springs. The airway has been disconnected during shipping to prevent any damage. Simply attach the lung bags by bringing the airway tubes up through the hole in the upper compression plate. Ensure that the lungs lay flat on the upper compression plate. Replace the compression plate with anatomical landmarks over the top of the upper compression plate. You also see on the upper compression plate the stomach bag for the stomach feature for all of the CRiSis mannequins, which is an indicator of improper intubation. There will be a stomach rise. Place the defibrillation chest skin back over the upper compression plate via the hook and loop at the shoulders and on the sides. Being cautious not to attach the chest skin overly tight. The CPR torso is now ready. Okay. The next feature on the CRiSis, adult CRiSis mannequin is the IV arm. Using the supplied blood powder and pint container, fill the container with 500 cc's or milliliters of distilled water. Shake to mix the contents on the inside of the container. Procuring a fluid supply stand will be necessary for this procedure. Select a fluid supply bag to use as the hanging bag for the intravenous arm. Close the clamp to ensure no fluid flows through the arm. Open the bag ever so slightly by moving it back and forth. Using the pre-mixed blood, fill the fluid supply bag to the 500 milliliter mark. Close the cap tightly and hang the hanging bag no greater than 18 inches above the simulator. Select a piece of tubing coming from the top of the intravenous arm. Attach the hanging bag to one of the tubes coming from the arm. Adding a little water to the end of the fluid supply bag may help get the tubing nice and secure. Take the second fluid supply bag. Close the top. And attach the fluid supply bag to the free tubing coming from the intravenous arm. Again, a small amount of water will help move that tubing all the way up on the end of the fluid supply bag. This second fluid supply bag will be the catch bag for the intravenous arm. To fill the IV arm, simply open the clamp for the hanging bag, allowing the fluid to run into the channel of the IV arm. Allow the fluid to run into the arm until an evidence of bubbles is done escaping into the second bag. The channel in the IV arm simply goes down the back of the arm, around the back of the hand, and back up through the shoulder. The arm does twist so that there's access to the antecubital fossa. The skin in the veins on the IV arm are easily replaced. There is also a shoulder injection site at the shoulder of the IV arm. The adult CRiSis Manikin also features a blood pressure arm. Included for the blood pressure arm is an electronics box, a modified blood pressure cuff with sphygmomanometer that is a child size, as well as 6 AA batteries. First, access the battery compartment on the back of the electronics box. Depress the cover using your thumbs. To install the batteries, there are very light impressions for the plus and minus on either side of the battery compartment for the electronics box. Install the supplied batteries according to the pluses and minuses stamped on the inside of the electronics box. Ensure the batteries are all seated firmly in the battery compartment. Slide the cover for the electronics box back into place. The electronics box has several features: a power button, a cuff adapter, and an outlet to plug in the arm. First, plug in the arm. Next, using the modified sphygmomanometer and cuff, twist the cuff adapter until it's firmly twisted onto the electronics box. Apply the blood pressure cuff to the arm using standard practice. The arm is affixed to the Manikin via a hinge to allow for easier mobility of the arm to and away from the body of the Manikin. Pressing the power button will turn the electronics box on. The blood pressure that is initially seen is the last blood pressure that was done on the electronics box. Each electronics box is calibrated prior to leaving at 120/80 with a heart rate of 80 beats per minute. By pressing the menu button, you can change the systolic, the diastolic, the heart rate. You can set the palpable pulse to be on or pulseless, and then it goes back to the home screen. At the home screen, once you've selected the systolic, diastolic, and heart rate you desire, the pulse rate should be felt in the radial aspect of the arm. Lightly pressing will allow you to feel the pulse. To change the systolic or diastolic pressure, select the Set Systolic menu. Using the arrow keys on the side, either increase or decrease to the desired systolic rate. Pressing the menu button again will allow you to change the diastolic. Again, using the arrow buttons to either increase or decrease as desired. Setting the heart rate can also be done from pressing the menu button for a third time. Again, use the arrow buttons up or down to adjust the heart rate. All of the components, systolic, diastolic, and heart rate, are set from 0 to 300. Set palpation is the fourth menu option. You can set the pulse to be on or pulseless. When the simulator is set to pulseless, the systolic and diastolic pressures are automatically 0. By selecting the gap button, you can allow the oscillatory gap to be enabled or disabled. The third button on the electronics box is the calibrate button. If after performing several blood pressures, what was selected is off from what is seen on the sphygmomanometer, you use the calibrate function. You press and hold calibrate, and systolic calibration will come up. To determine what to choose, you use either plus or minus the difference between what you saw on the sphygmomanometer and what was selected on the menu. Pressing the menu button will allow you to hit the calibrate function for the diastolic. The last, pressing the menu button for a third time, the calibration will be complete. There's also a volume function for the speaker that's inside the arm. From the home screen, using the arrow buttons will allow you to adjust the volume from 1 to 7. This will help to hear the oscillatory sounds, the 5 Karotikov sounds inside the blood pressure arm. Powering the electronics box on, the radial palpable pulse will start. Lightly pressing the radial pulse is important to not cause damage to the simulator. When performing a blood pressure, pumping up the blood pressure cuff, when it surpasses the systolic set point, the palpable radial pulse will automatically shut off to allow students to hear the sounds in the arm easier. It will then turn back on when it reaches 20 millimeters below the diastolic set point automatically. The adult CRiSis Manikin also has heart and lung sounds. To begin to use this feature, it is first important to install the batteries in the Smart Scope remote and the Smart Scope. To install the batteries, simply depress the back cover of the remote. Install the batteries in the remote first and then the scope. Using the diagrams on the battery compartment, install the batteries to the appropriate plus or minus. Slide the battery compartment over the batteries installed in the remote. Next, install the batteries, included AA, in the back of the Smart Scope. Using the diagram in the back, install the batteries to the appropriate plus or minus. Ensure the batteries are firmly seated in the battery compartment and slide the cover back onto the Smart Scope. The remote has several buttons available. The red power button, when pressed, goes to a home screen. The digital display will then show HS and a number, LS and a number in parentheses. HS standing for heart sounds, LS standing for lung sounds. The heart and lung sounds can be easily selected. Either select heart or select lung. By pressing heart, it will then give you all of the heart sounds that are printed in the bottom of the remote. You can either use the scroll button and scroll through the different options, or you can use the number buttons and select a number, 1 through 12. Pressing enter will put the selection back to the home screen. You will then see HS equal to and the number of the heart sound that you selected. Hitting the lung button, you can again scroll through the sounds and press enter, or use the number pad to select a lung sound from 1 to 16. Pressing enter will take you back to the home screen, and now you will have an LS equal to the lung sound that you selected, in this case 7. So we now have heart sound 12 and lung sound 7. You then place the Smart Scope ear probes into your ears and find the different sounds by using and placing the bell of the stethoscope onto the Manikin. When a sound is found, you can use the supplied stickers, green for lung, blue for heart, or vice versa, whichever you choose, and place them on the Manikin as a training aid to know where you've heard a heart or a lung sound. Also supplied with the Manikin is a graphic indicating where the heart sites are, as well as where the anterior and posterior lung sites are located. There's an additional auscultation trainer user help guide available with the Manikin to assist you with any troubleshooting with the auscultation portion of the Manikin. In a classroom setting, you can also plug in an optional external speaker into the top of the smart scope so that everyone in the room can hear the sounds that you're hearing when you've located them with the smart scope. The adult CRiSis Manikin comes with a printing and memory unit. To set up the printing and memory unit, first you have to remove the lid of the unit using the insert key. When you unpackage your Manikin, the insert key is taped to the back of the printing and memory unit. Using the key and the stickers that indicate where to insert, gently insert and press the key to pop the lid off. Working back and forth on each side until the lid pops free. Once the lid has been removed, use the included D-size batteries and install them in the appropriate, following the chart in the base for the appropriate plus and minus. The next bit of setup is to install the paper. The paper comes pre-packaged, and we've opened it for today. You have to gently pull the white rod free from the inside of the printing unit. Reinsert the paper, making sure both ends snap into the hole on either side of the metal bracket. There's a small piece of paper that's already in the printer that protects the roller during shipment. The roller can be pulled completely free of the unit to subsequently slide the paper up and under where the roller reattaches. Making sure that the paper is straight under the roller, then snap the roller back into place on both sides. Once the paper has been installed, going ahead and connecting the Manikin via the Manikin interface can be done. You can then turn the power on and feed the paper to make sure that it has been properly installed. When the paper has been properly installed, once the unit has been turned on, a life form and the registered trademark symbol will show. Continue to feed the paper until you have a good enough length to slide through the lid of the printing unit and snap the cover back into place. The memory and printing unit is now ready. The electronic memory and printing unit has several features. Power button selects the power to be on or off. The printing unit can also be off or on. To feed the paper through the printing unit, simply press the paper feed button. There's also a toggle switch for defibrillation, on or off. This will light up if selected on during the CPR test mode and will stay on until the Manikin is defibrillated. There's a mode toggle switch that can switch the display from either compressions per minute or inches per depth or ventilation, second duration, or cc's of volume. The decimal point will switch. There are 3 indicator lights at the top of the electronic printing and memory unit. The ventilation LED light is green and will light up when the appropriate ventilation volume and duration is being provided to the Manikin. The yellow LED light for compressions will light up when the appropriate compression rate and depth is being provided to the Manikin. The last and final light on the printer unit is the hand placement light. When the hands are improperly placed on the Manikin, the red light will light up. We'll now display the compressions and hand placement. The green LED light did not show up because we are not ventilating the Manikin at this time. The electronic printing and memory unit also has a student test function. To initiate a test sequence, you just press the Start button. Start performing compressions and when the testing sequence is over, hit stop. The printer will then print out the averages for compression, ventilation, compression duration, and compression depth, as well as ventilation duration and ventilation volume. Several versions of the adult CRiSis full-body Manikin, as well as torsos, come ECG capable. The electronics box is in a separate package and will require to be unpackaged. To connect the Manikin, the limb lead cords are wrapped on the inside of the Manikin and will need to come out from the inside torso and pulled out through the side. The leads are color-coded that coincide with the side snaps on the ECG simulator. Snap the green to the green, the red to the red, white, and black. The Manikin also has 4 ECG limb lead sites. They are indicated by the snap and a little symbol that says not a defibrillation site. There are 4 ECG sites on the torso of the Manikin. You would subsequently take your ECG limb leads from your defibrillator and connect them as appropriate. This particular defibrillator has 3 limb leads. The Manikin can accept 4. Turning the defibrillator on. We have to select 3 limb leads on our defibrillator, and then powering on the ECG box. The last rhythm selected is the first rhythm to turn on, in this case, normal sinus rhythm. You can select any of the rhythms via the ECG box. VF, VT fast, and the waveforms on your monitor or defibrillator will change coinciding with what's been selected. The ECG box allows for adult or pediatric rhythms by selecting age group. The LED light will then switch from adult to pediatric. Selecting the convert button will change the waiting rhythm to flashing. You will then select the rhythm you wish to select following shocking the Manikin. The waiting rhythm will then begin flashing. The Manikin can accept up to 360 joules of energy, and there are 2 defibrillation sites on the Manikin, both in the sternum and apex. To convert, we have paddles. I'm going to charge the defibrillator. Ensure that the paddles are firmly placed. Giving the Manikin a shock, then changed the rhythm to normal sinus. Which is then indicated on the ECG box. The adult line of CRiSis Manikins can accept up to 360 joules of energy via the defibrillation chest sites. You can use paddles, similar to what we have ourselves to test. You can use gel pads, as long as the defibrillation sites are completely covered. In an effort to save customers money, we do have training cables available that can be adapted to your defibrillator to help save time and money from using costly gel pads on the defibrillation sites. The training cables will have an end that coincide with your brand of defibrillator. It would subsequently plug in to your defibrillator where paddles or gel pads would typically plug into. We then have a series of adapter posts available that coincide with the snap-on lead heads. The adapter posts connect through a disc The banana clip goes through the back of the disc. The standard snap-on head adapter then twists onto the banana clip. This is then inserted into the defibrillation site on the manikin at the sternum and the apex. The snap-on cables would then snap directly onto the adapter posts. And the manikin is ready to be defibrillated into via the training cables. The ECG simulator can be used with the manikin, but it can also be used without the manikin. Locating the ECG limb leads from your defibrillator, snap the colored lead heads onto the appropriate colored discs on the side of the ECG simulator. Utilizing training cables or the snap-on heads from your defibrillator will be necessary. Adapter posts and banana clips with spacers will be required to attach the snap-on lead heads to the ECG simulator. The banana clip and then a spacer and then the standard ECG lead head all get twisted together. They then slide into the sternum and apex slots at the top of the ECG simulator. The snap-on lead heads then subsequently snap on to the standard adapter posts. The ECG simulator is now doubles as a load box and rhythms can be selected. The defibrillator can defibrillate into the ECG box up to 360 joules of energy and the waveforms will convert. This concludes the training video for the adult CRiSis Manikin line. For additional information, contact us by calling 1-800-558-9595 or emailing lifeform@enasco.com. Additional information can also be derived from our website at www.enasco.com/healthcare.